Alright, so this tutorial is going to cover the analysis script from the pattern screen project here. So we have two screens. These were developed by Rob and Tank. And I'm just going to go ahead and use these as an example for how you guys are going to go about analyzing these. And so Robin's done a really nice job of setting up the model. We worked together to make sure that everything will operate and generate planar curves. And so we go into our perspective here. We have everything sitting in the plan view, and there are no duplicate curves. If you want to test for duplicate curves, type SELDUP, and you can see there are no duplicates, so we don't have any extra stuff in here. We have two layers. We have a front and a back layer, so I could turn one of these off and I could turn one of these on. And so what I need to do in order to analyze this for the transparency is I need to take this and I need to first, I need to create a surface so that I can know what's solid and what's void. And so under the surface from Planar Tools, I'll just pull this out. And assuming that all your geometry is organized properly, should immediately appear. And if it's not, then we're going to go into troubleshooting, and we'll go ahead and talk about that at a later date here in another tutorial. What we can do from there is we can take both of these. Like I said, Robin's done a really nice job of setting us up. We can take both these guys and get them, so we have two surfaces. So now we can take these surfaces, I'm going to go ahead and copy. And you can type copy, or you can use the hotkey right here. And I'm just going to copy these down, hold shift to make sure this goes at an orthogonal mode. And then I'm going to overlay these each on top of each other. Now you will note that I haven't been working on really, I'm not concerned with my layers here. I'm working on the default layer so that I can stay out of the curves here. So I'm not messing with my curve geometry, but we're keeping that stuff separate. Okay, and so what we can do now is, for our analysis script, we need to know what our total area that we're actually going to be analyzing here. And so I'm going to go ahead and create a surface to evaluate that. And so we can create from end to end. And I'm going to go ahead and move this away so you guys can see. Basically, we have our 12-inch by 12-inch surface. And so if we want to test and make sure that that's actually the dimensions, 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay, so I use the dimensioning tool up here. And I'm going to go over scaling in another tutorial here in a second. Alright, so we'll delete those guys out. Alright, and so this is going to be the surface we're going to utilize to evaluate that. I'll go ahead and just move that back underneath there. And now for the analysis definition that I've written, we need to do a couple of things. It takes an analysis surface, and we have to mesh our two screens so that we can actually analyze this. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. You guys need to repeat this to the T. We're going to take this, and we're just going to move this analysis surface down 0.25. And it has to be downwards in the Z. So it's sitting beneath that now, so if we rotate, we have the surface. And then we're going to take both of these guys here, our actual drive geometry, and we're going to mesh them by typing mesh. Alright, and I've gone ahead and we'll max out the number of polygons for this, so we get a nice smooth mesh. Once we've done that, the surfaces are still selected, and we can go ahead and just hide those away. Okay. So now I'm going to take these three guys, and you'll note that there's two meshes and one surface. I'm going to copy those because we never want to edit our original. And I'm going to go ahead and look at this here. So now I just want to make sure all my geometry is set up properly. We have our analysis surface sitting underneath our two meshes. Okay. Now at this point we're going to be ready to run the script. Our geometry is set up, it's at the right size so that our analysis will actually be accurate when we get this out. Then we'll take this and we'll open the script editor, or if you type monkey because it's gotten grandfathered in, it'll pull up our Rhino script editor. So from here we're going to go ahead and open the script that I've written to calculate the definition here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to desktop, where that script is written here. So we'll go ahead and pull this up. So I wrote this for you guys, and what this does is this essentially is going to take and analyze the number of perforations by analyzing the area underneath. Okay? And so there's a lot of technical jargon in here. You guys can go through this if you want to learn the language, but it's asking for questions, and we're reparameterizing, and we're doing a bunch of really fancy stuff that you guys don't need to worry about. Suffice to say that this will just work, okay? So we're going to go, as long as you've plugged in your geometry properly. So we're going to go ahead and hit run the script. Now it's going to ask us for a geometry, and I've set some limits on this, so you can only select certain types of geometry. So I can just select the surface. It does not allow me to select the mesh. And then I've set this up so that you can only select mesh geometry for your screen. So if you have anything extra in here, you won't be able to select that. That's important to pay attention. So if you're having trouble selecting, you need to make sure you have the right geometries and the right geometry types in the right locations. So I'm just going to go left to right, right to left to select anything that it touches, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to select those geometries. Now it's going to ask me for the number of U and V divisions. What that is essentially working at is a surface is comprised of U and V. Those are basically X and Y coordinates across for it to analyze. So if we think of this as the U direction, and this is the V direction, which is similar to the X and the Y directions, we're going to go ahead and give it a number of sample locations that it's going to analyze here. And so it's set to 200 by 200. You should be able to just hit enter for both of those. So yes and yes. And I'm not going to hit enter yet because I want to explain. You can adjust these settings if you guys decide to reuse this script to analyze some other piece of geometry or transparency, depending on the granularity of the analysis that you want. You can start to control that. And if you have really large areas that you're trying to analyze, you can increase or decrease the density as appropriate. And I've tuned this in for you guys for this particular scale. Alright, so I'll hit enter to run this. And now it's going to go ahead and analyze this, and you can see that it's doing this. And I've intentionally left the redraw feature off. And so it's going through anywhere where it's going to come up with red is a fail, that is the light is not getting through, and anywhere where it's blue is going to be a pass. And so I'm going to go ahead, I left redraw on. In order to turn that off, you can just minimize the program. And so we can just sort of, we'll wait here for a second, and it will take probably about 15 seconds for this to go through and update. And when it pops up with the monkey editor, again, that means that your script analysis is done. Okay, and so that means that our guy is done, and I'm going to go ahead and restore the visualization. So then I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that window, and you can see that we have our nice little pattern here. And it's significantly slowed down the processing speed because we have now generated a lot of geometry in here for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just zoom out. And now there are a couple of things. The active layer is the pass. So we can I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of the geometry here. And so you can see it's generated a really nice graphic that you guys can start to utilize. We'll get into some of the rendering and producing of diagrams online. But we can start to turn some of these other features off. We can turn off all the failed stuff. And that's important when we start to come in here. We can start to select this information, the stuff where the light is actually getting through. And we're going to go ahead and just type area to find the area of that calculation. Okay. And what that comes up with is 48 square inches. Now, if you're working in inches, which you hopefully are, as you got this all scaled properly, we know that that's 48. To find the percentage, we can then go ahead and I'll go ahead and boot a calculator here. We can come in here and we take our 48, and then we divide that by the total area to find the percentage. So that's 144, 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay, that equals, and this hits 30.33 or 33%. And so what that tells us is that we have not hit our range. We're a little bit below it, so we need to increase our transparency or open up some of the geometries in here. And so what that says is then if we come back, I'll go ahead and set this as the active layer. We need to come back to our original curve geometry here and start to open this up. And we need to increase our percentages in here and start to massage this around. So this is an iterative process that we'll go through to actually start to define how we're going to just set up this pattern screen. Okay. And again, as you guys version and reversion, do not delete your originals. You need to make copies. You want to make sure that you always maintain that, because in case you create or corrupt some of your files, you will have a backup to look back on. Okay. All right, and that should get you set up with your analysis.